This would be the word processing section of the initial assessment. Now what you can see on the left hand side, if I just start to scroll down, is a normal Word document, and it has been sectioned off into different letters. These letters will normally relate to a question in your Microsoft Forms that you will have to answer. So for example, the top bit A obviously relates to this piece of text here, and that would be your header. Now that falls into your page layout section, and you will get a question on page layout. Our second section then is either paragraphs or text. In this case, it relates to paragraphs, and it simply just asks what type of justification has been put onto daffodils, and that would be center. You will also notice that this next section is the level 2 paragraphs, and set for level 2 because this is your level 2 skills. We want to know what type of format that this paragraph, How to Grow Daffodils, has been put into. And obviously that has been popped into columns, and it's 2 columns. Then again, we continue with the level 2 theme. So with the images then, what we're looking for you is to understand text wrap and the different types of text wrap you can use and how that relates to paragraphs. The text wrap used in this one obviously is square. The table at level 2 is very much progressed from level 1, and you can see that we have here additional rows with male merging going on, and also here we have different colours. So for example, the first question is how was the title row created, and that's obviously with our merged cells. The second one then asks us what has been applied to the second row to make it stand out, and obviously I've popped in the same colour that belongs to our subheadings, so what we've done there is produce the shading. This will give you an idea of how you should tackle your initial assessment. Take a look at the whole document, take a look at the sections that you've been asked for, and then follow on with your questions. This would be the spreadsheet section of the initial assessment. The first part you will always be asked will be about formatting. Now remember that formatting in an Excel spreadsheet is not the same as word processing, so pay attention to the number aspect. So our question is, what formatting has been applied to columns C and F? So you will be expected to go in and out of the spreadsheet. So in the spreadsheet, column C and column F has obviously been set for currency with 2 decimal places. So our answer would be currency with 2 decimal places. Simple calculations really belong to level 1. So make sure that you are familiar with how to do a calculation. And that calculation usually is where you're using a cell reference and one operator. So what formula has been used in column D? Okay, that's our group price, and it's to work out what that price should be. So is it B multiplied by C, B4 multiplied by C4, or B4 multiplied by D4? If I click my mouse, you'll actually see that it is B4 multiplied by C4. So familiarize yourself again with putting in your equals, choosing your cell reference, then choosing your operator, and then clicking into your second cell reference. You may also need to pay attention that you have to drag this down or do a fill down because there may be a question based on that. But again, that is level 1. Level 2 comes in with the complex calculations. Now, complex calculations will involve 2 operators, and it may involve brackets, and it may also involve an absolute cell. So our question was, what formula was used to work out the discount for Thomson International? So obviously that would be our group price minus, open bracket, our group price multiplied by our 10%. So make sure that you understand how to use double operators, also where you would put in your brackets and where you would use your absolute cell. Let's see that working for this one. So it would be equal our group price minus, now I want to work out what the discount is, and our discount then was our group price, and it was multiplied by 15%. I need to turn that into an absolute cell because I want to fill that down. And fill in down. Okay. You can see that's come in with dollar signs. So I'll just click back up here and change that back into normal currency for us. You will also be asked to work out functions. Now, functions are not the same as formula because they're inbuilt into the system. So for example, I can see my function that I've been asked about. If I click into it, it is the sum of the range. Always pay attention to your range because that's one of the things you will be tested on. So check that it goes from E4 to E7. So the answer would be this one here. Sum equals E4 to E7. Now let's see that in operation. Equals, and then you'll put in the name of your operator, and then you'll select your range. And that will give us our information. This would be the chart section of the initial assessment. Just like word processing, you may be given a chart that is labelled, and you will be asked to provide the answer to where those labels are. For example, A, that would be our chart title. B would be the axis label, and C would be the legend. So make sure you understand how to label a bar chart. You'll probably not get a pie chart because pie charts are there for level 1. You may also be asked to analyze the chart, so you will need to be able to understand the difference in the heights of the bars or how they might be presented with reference to colours. So for example, which item shows the greatest price difference? That's the difference between your columns, and that would be hotel. You may also be asked how to create a chart, so you will need to understand the process of putting that chart together and how to label that chart. So for example, the question asks, what would you use to display the values? In this case, to bring on these values, I displayed them as data labels. So you would need to understand the difference between data labels and a data table in order to be able to answer that question. This is the database section of the initial assessment. Again, like word processing and spreadsheet, it will be divided into sections. One of those sections is about layout. So for example, you might be asked the number of fields that there is in a database. Another section will be on sort or editing. For sort, you'll be expected to look at the database and find out which field it's been sorted on and how it's been sorted, A to Z or Z to A. There is also another section on queries. Now, queries takes up the vast amount of our database. For example, when we're doing queries, it can be single or multiple. We could be using arithmetic operators, greater than or equal to. We can also be using logic, or, and, between, not. We begin using wildcards and where to place them. And finally, we can be creating a query based on what we can see. Now I'm going to stop the share from these questions, and I'm going to create a new share and bring us into the database so that we can see that. Now when we talk about layout, what we're talking about, for example, is what fits inside the object area. Now inside the object area, we can see there is one table and there are 3 queries. That table is called the Empire Magazine films. What we can also see is that there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 fields. And if I look at the bottom down here, we can see that there are 19 records. You may be asked a question about data types. So for example, you would need to know the different data types that exist in Microsoft Access. And for example, that film name would be set for short text as well as genre. The year would be set for number because we're not dealing with day or month, and currency would be for our money grossed and given us 2 decimal places. And if I flip back into our datasheet view, you'll actually see what I'm talking about: text, text, number, and currency. Now, when we talk about queries, let's bring up this query here. Okay, so these are films created after 1990. If I examine the design view of that, you will see how that would be constructed. The field chosen is year, and the matching criteria is our arithmetic sign greater than 1990. If I choose this one, which is drama or romance, what I would expect to see then is a logical connection. And if I go into the design view, I'm looking for the right field genre, and they're looking for drama or romance. And it's the or that is our logical field. And if we see that, once we run that query, we have drama and we also have romance. One of the other things we'll be asked for will be the wildcard. Now, we know the wildcard is represented by the asterisk, but when we come to look at this in your initial assessment, you will be asked where to put that wildcard. And in the design of this, which says films with the in their title, you can see that the wildcard has been placed before and also after. So if I now go back to view, you can see before and also after.